A federal judge has ordered Kilmar Abrego Garcia to be released while he awaits trial for human smuggling charges.
That's right, you heard that correctly. A federal judge now wants the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, despite currently being charged with human smuggling.
The Trump administration has already filed a motion asking the judge to reconsider.
And of course the Trump administration knew this was coming, so they immediately appealed. So we have a lot to break down in this story, because I know a lot of you are asking, well, he's an illegal immigrant anyway, won't he be deported? What's the point of all of this? We're gonna break it all down. Now, before we start the video, make sure to please like the video. It's the #1 way you guys are helping this channel, but it also helps others see the videos as well, and I think people want to know what's happening with the Maryland man.
And despite today's ruling, he's not expected to go free because prosecutors previously said ICE would take him into custody if he were to be released. There's a hearing on Wednesday to discuss the conditions of his release.
Okay, so two things. #1, this is all very ironic, because if you guys remember, the entire argument for Kilmar Abrego Garcia was releasing him down from El Salvador. Now the argument back in America is releasing him from the prison he's in currently. And #2, like you heard, ICE already said, we're just gonna take Kilmar Abrego Garcia and put him in our facility. So what is the point of all of this?
Abrego Garcia faces human smuggling charges. A judge denied the government's request to keep Abrego Garcia detained until trial. He will likely be placed in Immigration and Customs Enforcement custody despite today's ruling.
So here's where things get interesting. We have the court documents, and it's a massive document, but we're going to focus on the most important part. The judge is straight up saying, upon review of the evidence and taking all these factors into consideration, the court finds the government failed to meet its burden of showing a properly supported basis for detention. To simplify this, the judge is saying Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not as dangerous as the Trump administration is saying, thus I feel comfortable of releasing him to the public, and most likely he will return to court to go through this process.
Well, you know, I kind of separate it into two separate buckets. One, I think of the politicians, and I think it was Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, who said this is not about Abrego Garcia, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the man. It is about the rights of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and those are two distinct issues, right? Kilmar Abrego Garcia deserves due process no matter who he is, no matter what his background is, no matter what he has done. And the moment you compromise it for him, you compromise it for every American.
Now, here's where things get a little confusing. The Kilmar Abrego Garcia court case is not going to help out every single illegal immigrant in the United States with their due process. This court case is only going to help out other illegal immigrants who are just like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and there's not that many. We're talking about an illegal immigrant who was deported, but they were not supposed to be deported because they have a special court order. There's not that many out there, but if they are out there, they can now cite to this case and say, look, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, he had no criminal history and he was still released, thus I should be released too.
Van Hollen changed his tune because every day another shoe drops on the Maryland dad. He was a suspect in a human trafficking operation dating back 3 years, and Fox Digital just got their hands on the body cam. But you're seeing it here first. Tennessee Highway Patrol stopped Kilmar for speeding and noticed he had 8 other people in the car. All no luggage. Take a look.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good, and you?
All right.
Anything good?
You got a bunch of people here, don't you?
Now, if you haven't already, make sure to please subscribe to my channel. This is what we do here. We go through the evidence and we make sure to hold our elected officials accountable. Thank you. Okay, this is very crucial. When it comes to Kilmar Abrego Garcia having a criminal history, the judge is also seeing that, technically speaking, Kilmar Abrego Garcia has no criminal history. Now, this is, of course, the dividing line, because the Trump administration is saying otherwise. We know for a fact, and we have evidence, the guy is a criminal, which is why he's going through this court case. On the opposite spectrum, for the Kilmar Abrego Garcia supporters, people are saying he has no criminal history. It doesn't matter what evidence you say you have. There's been no court case that says otherwise. So I just want to let you guys know this is another reason as to why Kilmar is being released.
And what this case is about for me is not about what he may or may not have done. It's about, was he treated in accordance with the laws of the United States. And it's clear, based on what these judges are saying, that has not been the case. That is the significance of this, is that at the end of the day, the Trump administration wants to take people who they think, and they're certainly projecting as bad people, and making you say, don't care about the bad people. We can get rid of the bad people without due process because we don't want bad people in our country. But then we will take that and take it to the next point, which is if we can go after the Mahmoud Khalils and the Kilmar Abrego Garcias, people who the general public may not like or not care or not even understand what they're about, then we can begin to kind of take it to the next level with people not noticing.
Now, I find those statements rather interesting because on the same network, MSNBC had a guest on who actually said otherwise, that the Trump administration is actually doing everything they're supposed to be doing as far as practicing due process. Even if it takes only 24 hours to give somebody due process and they're out of the country, they're allowed to do that in a lot of these cases.
Federal law allows for even broader and speedy removal than has been used in the past. And expedited removal, as you talked about, allows for summary removal. That means no entitlement even to a hearing, possibly within 24 hours. It hasn't been used as broadly as, say, the Trump administration might want to use it, but under the statute, it is permissible to remove aliens who arrive at the border and even those who have been here for 2 years, although that 2-year provision you talked about is the lesser used in practice. But just because it isn't used very often doesn't mean it's not a part of federal law that can be used.
But again, like we talked about before, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is not a regular old illegal immigrant. He was a protected illegal immigrant. He was not supposed to be deported to El Salvador. Well, that doesn't matter. The U.S. government still knows there's a way to figure this all out.
Yeah, Garcia's a little different. He wasn't removed under the Alien Enemy Act because he's not a Venezuelan. And so that whole argument about Venezuela being the enemy or Tren de Aragua being the enemy doesn't apply. But you're absolutely right. If he comes back, what due process is he even entitled to? Well, probably the government will go back to the immigration court and challenge or reopen his case. Because remember, the only thing that kept him here was a withholding of removal order from, I believe, 2019. So they can go back to that court, try to reopen that case and say, hey, since then, he's done some bad things. Now, factually, you can argue, hey, no, he didn't do any of these bad things.
But Danny,
he's fine.
even that's just limited to don't send him back to El Salvador. They could deport him to Honduras.
Exactly. You make a really good point, which is, again, everyone's saying, hey, bring him back, give him due process. But that due process may mean he can go to any of the other, 200 or so countries other than El Salvador.
And that brings us all the way back to square one. What is the point of all of this to release Kilmar Abrego Garcia if he's just going to go back into another prison system? Funny enough, we can actually make a comparison with the Judge Hannah Dugan case up in Wisconsin. Make sure to please subscribe to my channel because we are following that very close. Basically, the federal judge overlooking this case is like, I'm not going to waste everyone's time. Judge Hannah Dugan's case has been delayed because they're trying to figure out whether or not they should even go through with it, because both sides are going to appeal, and the judge is like, well, if both sides are going to appeal Judge Hannah Dugan's argument, let's first figure out if Judge Hannah Dugan even has a good argument. And the judge in charge of the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case is really in the same situation. Am I going to waste everyone's time by releasing Kilmar Abrego Garcia because he's just going to end up in another prison system?
So I think the judiciary standing up here and say, no, there has to be due process even for the people who we may not necessarily like is the important takeaway.
I think a corollary of all of that, as you pointed out, this does not mean that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is actually being released, unlike in the case of Mahmoud Khalil. The corollary of that is that there are a lot of ways that the government can actually go after people that are within the color of law if they feel that they need to lock someone up. Now, it's not clear that Abrego Garcia actually deserves to be locked up, but my point is that they don't need to break the law. They have so many tools at their disposal. Or circumvent it. They have so many tools at their disposal, in part because we have this very complicated, opaque immigration system that gives the government a lot of discretion to go after immigrants, whether or not they have a criminal record.
Now, the reason why this case is unique, and you'll notice no one seems to be really sticking their neck out for Kilmar Abrego Garcia, because again, again, in all technicality, he's not a criminal. Yet there's a lot of evidence that shows, like, his wife put a restraining order against him because he was hitting her, and we have that footage out where Kilmar didn't have a proper driver's license and people in the vehicle were with him, and the local police are saying this guy is smuggling humans. But the point is, you can clearly see now that we have this evidence, there seems to be a lot less support from all of these members of government, specifically for Kilmar Abrego Garcia not being a criminal. Okay, shifting from the legality of all of this to the political side of things, I think you will enjoy this clip from Scott Jennings, and I truly do think he speaks for the majority of America, considering the majority of Americans are okay with a lot of these deportations, and again, we're seeing less and less support, specifically for people like Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
This entire thing could not be working out better for Trump. I mean, the Democratic Party, since he has come back into office, has put all of their time, all of their energy, all of their whatever they can muster into fighting for illegal immigrants, keeping them in the country, keeping Trump from deporting them. And so time and again, we get into these situations where Trump is doing something completely lawful and within his authority, such as sending the National Guard to control a riot. And he's doing it for the purpose of controlling a situation to keep other American citizens safe, and Democrats continue to step on this rake, continue to die on this hill that is a huge political loser for them. And it's getting worse. These stunts, trying to get yourself arrested, lunging at cabinet secretaries. You've got a judge in Wisconsin, trying to help sneak illegal aliens out the back of the courthouse. Democrats across the country spending all of their time and energy on illegal aliens, and Donald Trump spending all of his time and energy on trying to enforce the laws of the land. Complete winner, and he's well within the right to do it.
Did he really lunge at Chrissy Nome?
Yes. Did you watch it? Of course he did. He comes barging into a press conference, running up to a stage. I mean, what is the security supposed to do?
As somebody who covers this stuff every single day, and if you're watching the news, you probably agree with Scott Jennings. Even if you're not a Republican or conservative, we can all agree, at the very beginning of anything that happens in America, you either have a ton of support or a ton of disagreement, and then eventually it plateaus out. What a lot of these specific cases, like the Kilmar Abrego case, or the judge up in Wisconsin, and I didn't know Scott was going to talk about that judge. We talk about the judge all the time. You'll see there's a lot less support for the judge or Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Now, we don't know why that is. If I had to take an educated guess, I think it's because we're seeing a lot of this public evidence. Although it's not formal evidence or formally been charged against the people, it's enough evidence where people are seeing that and they are backing away. But let's see what Stephen Miller has to say.
The Department of Justice has indicted the illegal alien terrorist from Maryland, the so-called Maryland man, who is actually a foreign terrorist from El Salvador, to make him face justice for his monstrous crimes against humanity. Another huge win for the Trump administration. Thanks to weeks of investigative work, this illegal alien monster is going to be held accountable for his terrible crimes against women and children. And then guess what, Sean? After he does hard time in an American jail, guess where he's going? Right back to El Salvador. What do Democrats have to say about this now? They celebrated this guy. They worshiped this guy. They treated him as a hero. Now he's been indicted by a grand jury for committing some of the most heinous crimes I've ever read about. He's going to do hard time in our jails, and then he's going back home where he belongs, to El Salvador.
And again, the judge is well aware that the Trump administration, this is the plan. If you're going to release him, well, he's coming into the ICE detention facility. If he's going to win this court case, it doesn't matter, he could still be deported. If he loses the court case, he will now be in American prison systems. So really, no matter what happens, it looks like all of the cards are in the favor of the Trump administration as far as putting Kilmar Abrego Garcia into some sort of facility like a jail system or prison system.
And DOJ argues that because in their papers they say that there were some minors, for example, children involved in these alleged trips that Kilmar Abrego Garcia took with undocumented migrants, that it does fall under the need for a detention hearing. Now, the next thing that we will see is the lawyers for Abrego Garcia will file papers, presumably arguing arguing that their client doesn't need to be detained, that there's no need for a detention hearing. But say this all goes forward, there likely will be a hearing on Friday, and it will be a series of hearings. It will be a hearing about whether to have a detention hearing, then a detention hearing if the magistrate judge determines that there should be one, and then he will be arraigned. So that is all coming up this week. Between now and then, I'm sure we will see more papers filed by his lawyers and maybe a response from the government.
American politics. This will always be the most confusing thing to me. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure again to please subscribe to my channel for more relevant updates with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We were covering him since day one, even before he got deported down to El Salvador. So again, if you've been subscribed to me and following this, you know it's been a long journey, but it looks like there's a lot more to go. So thank you so much for being here. Make sure to please like, subscribe, leave your comments down below, and we'll see you all later. God bless.